Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to my channel and welcome to the 5th part of the first Star Trek marathon. Today we're going to be talking about the worst one out of the original TOS films, and that is Star Trek V, The Final Frontier, which came out on June 9th of 1989, directed by William Shatner. This had a budget of $33 million. Domestically, it made 52 million, and worldwide it made 70 million. So this is so far the worst performing Star Trek film, and this film did not get very good reviews, and I can see why. Um, it's not a very good movie. Um, it's very bad, and I'm honestly kind of sad that it turned out this way, because I honestly think that if you look like behind the scenes and that sort of stuff, this could have been from conceptually the best Star Trek film ever made. It just sucks that um, William Shatner didn't really get to do what he wanted to do for this film. Um, Especially with like the whole searching for God thing. There was a lot of plot ideas that he had for the original, from the original script that did not get used in the film, and um, like I've heard that one plot detail is that in the film, obviously Kirk, Spock, and Bones are kind of like not they don't they get really the like cyborgs, like the new character cyborgs, like Vulcan power, which is for them to lose their emotions. Yeah, the rest of the crew does. In the original script, I think it was only Kirk that really like didn't succumb to that, and actually Spock and Bones did succumb to that. And I honestly think that might have been a bad idea, but um I'm kind of like that kind of seems like a bad idea, and I'm kind of glad that they changed it to, the trio that is Kirk, Spock, and Bones. Granted, it sucks that all the other characters kind of succumb to the new power, which basically means, yeah, we know that you're side characters. We're gonna put you literally off to the side, and we're just not going to care. Um, and I think that's really a shame. And I also think that it's a shame that this is. I think this is William Shatner's only directing film. There may be one more. I'm not sure. But it really sucks that he didn't get to go and do a lot more stuff after Star Trek V, because honestly, I feel like he could do a very good directing job. But let's talk about the plot. Um, so the crew of the USS Enterprise A, as they confront the renegade Vulcan cyborg, played by Lawrence Luckenbill, who is searching for God in the center of the galaxy, and they have to battle with him to also try and find this God figure, if it is actually God. Because this film is, it was advertised as the search for God. But obviously, with what happens later on in the film, it turns out to be something else. Um, so let's talk about the new cast members. Obviously, everyone from the original series has returned. Um, and they do all great performances as usual. Um, so Lawrence Luckenbill as Cyborg, he was more well known and is still more well known for theater, but I think in terms of acting chops, I think this is more his most well known role, and he does a very good performance playing um, a Vulcan with emotions, and like really kind of takes the emotions in and uses them. Um, Harv Bennett, who was the producer for Star Trek 2, 3, 4, and I believe 5. If I look back here, um, Yep. Was story by William Shatner, Hart Bennett, and David Lauder. Yeah, produced by Hart Bennett. So yeah, he also did produce part 5. Um, so not only he produced it, he also makes a cameo in this film as Starfleet Chief of Staff, which basically is basically telling Kirk that there's a hostage negotiation going on Nimbus 3, and he's the only one he's the only one within the quadrant that can go and do this. David Warner as the Federation like senator, or like the Federation person for the negotiations between the Federation, Klingons, and Romulans. Now, David Warner is more well known for his role in uh, Star Trek 60 Undiscovered Country, playing Chancellor Gorkon, but I'll talk about more about him when I get to that. Um, yeah, he pulls off a very good performance in this. Uh, Cynthia Gore as the Romulan ambassador. Um, she isn't really used in the film, and haven't really don't really know like any of these other characters from other films, except for one which I'll mention when I get up to that. Charles Cooper as General Korad, also know the Klingon Chancellor, who basically does actually have the biggest role out of the three kind of ambassadors of the film, which is the Federation, Romulan, and Klingon. Because the main villain Todd Bryant. Sorry if I butchered that. Plays Captain Claw, who thinks the best way, because he wants to fight Captain Kirk to the death, and for some reason he thinks the best way to do is follow him to this god planet so that he could just shoot him. And he's like, well, there's a whole bunch of kind of like little plot holes in this film that don't make sense. If he, like, one of them I could think of right now is like, if you want to go and fight Kirk in a hand-to-hand combat kind of thing, why try and shoot his shuttlecraft? It's so, it's so stupid. Like, if you're trying to fight him, why try to shoot him from his own shuttlecraft? Isn't that kind of dishonorable? Um, but that's just me. Well, actually, no, a lot of people have that complaint, so yeah, that makes sense. But anyways, the Klingon kind of chancellor, ambassador kind of person, um, is like the only one that can communicate um, with Captain Claw to kind of order him to stand down. Um, Spice Williams Crosby as Vixis, I think that's how you say it. She's like the second in command of the Klingon ship, and I think she like most of the new cast members, besides like the main ones like Cybok, she doesn't really get a lot to do. Like the main players are really Cybok, Captain Claw, and God, played by George Murdoch, who I believe was going to play. I believe it was either General Corrid or Captain Claw, one of those two. But he didn't get the role. But then he later went on to get hired on as God in this film. Um. So. So yeah, I guess we'll start off with the fun facts, which surprisingly, especially with how short the summary was, because on Google and like Wikipedia, the summary is really short, and I have no idea why. Like, like the previous 4 films and the next one, which is 6, they all have like kind of basically really kind of in-depth summaries, but this one is just, oh yeah, the crew of the Enterprise confront Cybok and try to fight God at the center of the galaxy. That's literally it. Um, so Anyway, so the first fun fact that I would like to share is that did you know that the film Star Trek Five was not the first thing um was not the first Star Trek Five that William Shatner starred in. It was actually a Saturday Night Live skit. So yes, in 1986, I believe shortly after the release of Star Trek Four, Saturday Night he had a guest appearance on Saturday Night Live, and he did a skit called Star Trek Five: The Restaurant Enterprise. I think that's what it's called. I personally haven't seen the skit, but that shows you that a TV show that's meant for comedy beat Paramount to the punchline of having a Star Trek Five before Paramount, um, which I think is very funny. Um, I don't I like I said I haven't personally seen the skit before, but I might be very funny. I after this I might need to look up the clip. The second fun fact I have is did you know that the name? Oh, well, I guess spoilers right here, since we're gonna be talking about kind of like the end, like the third act of the film. Okay, so spoilers. I really wish I could put up text right here, but I can't. So yeah, spoilers. For anyone who hasn't seen Star Trek Five, if you probably haven't watched any of the films I've covered so far on the channel, what are you doing? Like, go and watch those, and then come back to here so you don't have spoilers. Um, so go and watch Star Trek 5, and then come back here. Hello, welcome back. Um, so fun fact number 2 is, did you know that the name of the planet of Shakari is a sound-alike to Sean Connery? So yeah, um, the name of the planet that the third act basically takes place in, Shakari, sounds very similar to Sean Connery, who I think was originally supposed to play Cyborg. But since Star Trek Five was being released in the year of 1989, and we had a whole bunch of other films coming out, including Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, it might be a little hard trying to get to try and get Sean Connery to both act in The Last Crusade and Star Trek Five, trying to simultaneously play the role of Indy's father and then go and play kind of like the villain of the film in Cyborg. Um, but yeah, it's kind of a coincidence that um, Shakari sounds like Sean Connery and that Sean Connery almost starred in the film. Um, so I guess before I mention my final fun fact, might as well talk about the end, like the third act of the film, which obviously, like I said, takes place on Shakari. Um, so they get there and they find basically nothing, and all of a sudden the sky dims, it gets all kind of dark, and all of a sudden rocks, like rock pillars, start coming out from the ground, like Easter Island or something. Um, and then all of a sudden they hear this voice, which is basically George Murdoch, and God shows up, and I think, and then their first signs that this might not be the true God of the universe is when Kirk pulls off my favorite scene in the film, where Cyborg, I think he might have accidentally mentioned the ship, or he mentions the ship, like the Enterprise, in some form, and the God goes like, "The ship, can it carry my wisdom?" And Cyborg's like, "Yes," and then Kirk's like, um. "Guys, I'm right here. Like, I'm the captain." So he goes, "Excuse me, uh, what does God need with a starship?" And, like, that's, like, my favorite line in the whole movie. Because, honestly, the whole movie's, like, dull and boring, and, like, most of the jokes aren't funny. But that moment, I will admit, the first time I watched it, it actually made me laugh. And I still think that's the best line of the film. So that's my first favorite scene. I have two. So, anyways, so the first sign that this not might not be God of the universe is when Kirk asks, "What does God need with the starship?" And God react, "This God reacts by shooting lasers at Kirk, and you can literally see the wire at his back right as the light comes in and it hits him. You can literally see a little wire right here as it yanks him back, which shows you what kind of a budget that they had for this film, or how much money they didn't care to spend it on. But yeah, he gets yanked back, and then McCoy tries to help him, and then Spock goes, he is like that. You didn't answer the question. What does God need with a starship? And then God zaps him, and um, he's like, Spock's like, stop, like, why are you doing this? And he goes, they don't believe me, and it's like Spock's like, the God of Shakari wouldn't do this, and he goes, and like the God of Shakari is like, wait, Shakari, what is that? Am I imprisoned on this planet? And then he gets outraged and he starts to fight. And Spock and Cyborg have their one final kind of like Vulcan salute kind of together. And Cyborg sacrifices himself to fight because God has taken the image of Cyborg and used it against him to kind of like be like, hey, look what I can do. So Cyborg does like the Vulcan salute with Spock, and he sacrifices himself by battling with God. And Kirk orders to fire torpedoes at God, which basically kills Cyborg. Um, but God's still alive and it's chasing them. So while Kirk uses the transporter to get Spock and McCoy out of there, God attacks the shuttle, which means Kirk has like no way of like getting up there, and he starts getting chased by I almost just said it. Starts getting chased by God, and then all of a sudden the bird of prey just comes out of nowhere and just shoots the God in the face. Um, which I should probably just mention it now. My final fun fact has to do with the ending of the film. So obviously, the final end, ending in the final film, is God chasing the crew, like Kirk, Spock, and Bones, and then eventually just Kirk, and then the Klingons show up and they just shoot them. But the original ending was supposed to have rock monsters, like 20 rock monsters, and Kirk was supposed to like fight them all. Like the three were supposed to fight them off, and all of a sudden the Klingon ship came down and just shot them all. Like it destroyed them all, I should say. Get shot. It's probably not the best word to use. So they get destroyed by the Klingon murder prey, and then they get beamed up. Um, and then um, from the stories that William Shatner has told, they wanted to have like 20 rock monsters, and then they got reduced to like 15, and then 10, and they got reduced down to 5. And then he's like, all right, let's go and film it. And then like on the day of filming, they only have like one rock monster costume, and he's like, all right, just film it. And then they film it, and it's like jagged as hell. Like he starts like walking out. You could tell it's like a suit, cause like the actor in it is like very stiff. He's like has his like arms like this, so he's just like, and like the rock monster idea didn't work, so they changed the ending to obviously the god chasing Kirk, and then obviously the bird of prey comes down and shoots it or destroys it again. Um, but the rock monsters ending and of course some of the deleted scenes were in the comic book adaptation, which I do have. If you guys have seen my previous Star Trek collection videos, you did see that I have a collection of the first 6 Star Trek films in comic book form in one big paperback kind of book where it contains all of the comics from the motion picture to 6, and that version does also include it. So yeah, one thing I do want to talk about, that's probably okay. Well, first before I get on to the composer and my rating for the film, I do want to mention my final favorite scene is it's when they're all in like basically like the 10 forward of the Enterprise A, basically. If you guys don't know what 10 forward is, it's like the bar kind of area, like dining, like hangout area for the Enterprise D. But this is basically in the ending of 5 kind of takes place in kind of the Enterprise A version of 10 Forward, but even though it's not called it, I don't think they actually mentioned the name anywhere in the film. But anyway, um, Kirk, Spock, and Bones are talking about Spock's talking about how he felt like he just lost a brother, and Kirk mentions the time that he lost a brother, which I believe appears in one of the TOS episodes, but I'm not sure. And um, my second favorite line in the whole film is when Bones goes like, "Is God really out there?" And Kirk goes, "Maybe he's not out there, Bones. Maybe he's right here in the human heart." And I think that's a very good emotional speech. And actually, one more scene I want to talk about is probably the best acting from William Shatner in this film is when like he has like emotional scenes kind of like at the end. But this is like the best kind of acting chops in the whole film by Bill Shatner is when Spock and Bones have had their pain taken away, and Bones goes like, this con man took my emotions away," and goes, "Bones, you know the emotions can't be taken away with a pain of a magic wand. I don't want pain to be taken away. I need my pain." It's a very nice scene. Um, the visual effects. I would really want to talk about the visual effects in this film. They are not good at all. um, this was the year '89, so ILM and like Boss Film were doing a lot of work, especially ILM, because they had to do like Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Um, I think what else was it? Uh, I'm already starting to lose it, like lose my memory. But they were doing a lot of films, including Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, and they weren't available for Paramount to use them for Star Trek Five, so they used another company, which I'm not sure if I mentioned it back here. It just says visual effects by Brian Fernan. Um, they were handled by another effects company, and it shows because the ship shots are like either they move very slowly, like the shark in Jaws 3D, or like the scene where the Enterprise goes into warp speed. It's like jagged. It's like dun, 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 dun. Luckily with Star Trek 6, they did get ILM back for that film, and the effects look a lot better than this. Um, but one last thing I want to talk about before I want to talk about the rating I'm gonna give it is the score by Jerry Goldsmith is probably the one of the best things about the film. Obviously, you guys may have remembered Jerry Goldsmith from composing the first Star Trek film, the motion picture. Um, it's probably the best score out of the. Well, actually, all of them are really good, especially compared to like the TNG films, and especially like for me, the reboots. The reboot scores are terrible, because they just keep on using the same thing over and over again. But at least, I mean, yeah, it kind of sucks that all the films, TOS films, have different themes for them, basically. But I think it's nice that they have some diversity. Um, this film uh, is not very good. It's a massive guilty pleasure in my opinion. It's basically the Star Trek film that I would put on like a Sunday morning in case like I want to watch a movie, like a Star Trek movie. This would be the one I want to put on cuz honestly, it's entertaining, but I know it's bad. So I'm going to give this film a 4 out of 10. Not not very good at all. Very entertaining. That's why I called it my guilty pleasure. One of my guilty pleasures, but I just think it's a very bad film. Like no, everyone can agree on that. So yeah, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this little Jesus, I'm at 24 minutes. That's my longest one yet. I really hope you guys enjoyed this 24-minute review of Star Trek V: The Final Frontier. Stay tuned for tomorrow, where I'm going to be ending the TOS portion of the film reviews by talking about Star Trek 6: The Undiscovered Country, which is claim this which is supposed to be the second best of the original series, and I personally agree. But if you want to find out my thoughts, wait until tomorrow to figure that out. So, hope you guys enjoyed, and see you guys until the next one. Live long and prosper. Out.